Hey, what's good with the YouTube? This is your boy Rojo. This is the Rojo Room, man. Today, what we're going to talk about is a group that's known very well throughout Southern California, LA, but also nationwide, man. It's the East Coast Crips. And specifically, it's about the guy that's allegedly their leader, man. And he goes by the name of Paul Little Doc Wallace. OG, been around a long time, man. This is kind of a summary. He just got hit with the RICO, got 35 years and whatnot. And this is like a little life story about it, man. And I'm going to do a little bit of reading and we'll talk about it, man. Anyway, a boss of bosses of the Los Angeles based Crips gang, who began ascending the ranks when he was 6 years old, has been sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. Paul Little Doc Wallace, 56, was sentenced for a racketeering conspiracy, which included the 2014 murder of a rival gang member who was shot dead washing his car. Wallace has been down in prison already since 2020. His supporters, some of whom testified in his defense, argued that Wallace was reformed and had renounced violence. They said he played an instrumental role in arranging a truce between his gang, the East Coast Crips, based on the east of LA's South Side, and the Mexican American Florencia Trece gang, who the ECC had battled for control of drug trafficking in their district. But prosecutors said he was unrepentant, boasting about killing people and arranging the stabbing of a rival inmate in 2021. They also pointed to YouTube clips in which he told of torturing dogs. As a triple OG or big homie or the boss of all bosses, the defendant could order violence and commit violence with impunity, said Assistant U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Cherminsky, Deputy Chief of Los Angeles Office's Violent and Organized Crime Section. And that's exactly what he did. Wallace was born in Vivian, Louisiana, a remote rural town near the Texas border, 35 miles north of Shreveport, according to why can't I talk? Documents obtained by Law and Crime. His mother found out the father was married and already had another family, so she and her 7 children moved to Los Angeles. Wallace's lawyer said the move came at a time when the Crips and Bloods were beginning to form and the crack epidemic was in its infancy. Wallace's mother worked long hours, with older siblings taking care of the younger, and Wallace was increasingly drawn to the expanding gang life that dominated the poor areas of South Central Los Angeles in the 1970s. At age 6, he began hanging out with gang members, sometimes riding around on the handlebars of their bikes. He was officially initiated into the East Coast Crips in the 1970s, joining one of the largest African American gangs at the time, which was locked into a rivalry with the Bloods and their subsets. Wallace was known as Little Doc Thone. Age 16, he was shot 7 times, and then again the same year, and then again in the same year, and was first convicted of firearms charges when he was 19. He was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 1989 for a drive-by shooting and went on to rack up multiple weapons charges and at least 2 more stints in prison. He was convicted again in 1996 of another weapons possession charge while still in prison, and in 2016 was convicted of federal firearms offenses. Wallace's second and final federal case was brought in July of 2020 in an indictment describing him as the most influential member of the East Coast Crips six-pack subset. He was charged with 2 murders, the 2003 shooting of Raymond Pickett and the November 14 shooting of Reginald Brown, who was unarmed washing his car when killed at 8:30 a.m. Wallace himself did not pull the trigger, but was ultimately responsible, and the murder weapon, an AK-47 style assault rifle, was later found in Wallace's. That's what it says, in Wallace's. I don't know. In Wallace's what? He was convicted of Brown's murder, but not Pickett's at the end of the 11-day trial in April of this year. Wallace maintained his control over the gang through violence and intimidation, the Justice Department said at the time, announcing his conviction. Wallace murdered and conspired to commit murder to enhance the gang's violent reputation, to enhance his status within the gang, to retaliate against rivals, and to enforce discipline within the gang. As a gang leader, Wallace's other criminal conduct included selling drugs in ECC territory, extorting local businesses, presiding over robberies, and engaging in other acts of violence, including intimidation, assaults, and shootings against the gang's rivals. His lawyers, Amy E. Jacks and Sean Koyahan, called for a mitigated sentence that considered the 10-year minimum for the gun charge, noting his lifelong trauma from a broken relationship with his father and being shot twice at age 16. They also cited Wallace's instrumental work ending a 20-year war between his East Coast Crips and the Florencia 13 gang, as well as his anti-gang outreach with kids and through the organization Trucing the Gangs. Wallace was running his own nonprofit, United We Stand Up, dedicated to ending gang rivalries when he was arrested in 2020. The group is now run by Trucing the Gang's founder, Pastor Shep Crawford. Crawford spoke at Wallace's sentencing on Friday, as did Skip Townsend, an ex-Bloods gangster who runs the gang intervention group Last Call. Mr. Wallace is focused solely on bettering his life and that of his young families, both Jax and Koyahan wrote in their memo. He had a difficult upbringing and trauma in his life that should be taken into account toward a mitigated sentence. But the prosecutor said Wallace planned and oversaw the May 2021 stabbing of another inmate and described him as undeterred and unrepentant. Chemerinsky said the trial evidence, if anything, understated his propensity for violence and depravity. For example, in one recording, which was never played at trial, the defendant bragged about torturing dogs and cutting off their limbs for enjoyment. He referenced being in the pen, believed to be a reference to prison, with a man named Evil because he was killing like a MFer like me. I'm like, damn, they put in work, got murders under their belt like a manhunt. I got murders under mine, Wallace says. In the YouTube video, Wallace says he participated in devil worship and sawed the legs off dogs and mutilated cats. The prosecutor anticipated that Wallace's lawyers would try to argue he was reformed and a force for good in the community, and submitted another memo designed to preemptively respond to any claim the defendant may make at sentencing that he is reformed or can be otherwise trusted to comply with the law. He had wrote, based on the defendant's sentencing memorandum and arguments advanced previously, it appears the defendant may attempt to argue that he has been a force for good in the community. The defendant has a long history of deception and manipulation, and these arguments should not be trusted. U.S. District Attorney Judge Andre Barote agreed with Sherman, whatever his name is, rejecting the life sentence recommendation, but sentencing Wallace to an effective life sentence with the 35 years. Wallace's lawyers told Law and Crime that they intend to appeal. Now, man, be careful what you say on YouTube. Anybody who does interviews, be careful what you say. They are watching. I know it. Everybody knows it. And anybody agreeing to participate and talk on YouTube should understand that it's going to be seen by many people. Now, 35 years. I mean, it's a long time, but there's a lot of allegations there, man. He was found guilty. Has he done good in the community? I mean, yeah, East Coast Crips and Florencia have pretty much squashed their beef for the most part, and that's good. But, you rack up all those violent things, man, eventually they're going to get tired of playing with you, and no amount. Oh, I mean, look at what they did to Tukey. You know what I mean? Tukey Williams, man, he did all kinds of good after the fact, man. But, you got to realize with them folks, they're going to look at everything as a method to manipulate. You know what I mean? So no matter how good you do, man, if you're still doing dirt at the same time, the bad is always going to outweigh the good, man. And that's just how the system's set up, But, I was with a dude from ECC in Susanville, and I actually was familiar with who this guy is. And he was from the exact same subset. And he said, dude's a cool dude, whatever. I never heard no, devil worshipman type of, doing weird stuff to animals type of things about the guy, man. But, I just wanted to bring this to your guys' attention, man, because this is a good example of them using things that you say on YouTube that'll come back and bite you in the butt, man. So be careful when you're telling your stories. Even if you're not implicating yourself in crimes or whatnot, these videos will be used as like character reference and things of that nature. Potentially, if you get busted for something else, man, they'll be like, you could just be out here trying to high side and be like, oh yeah, man, I do this or that, which may not be, You know, they may not be able to bust you, you know, based upon you saying something like that because there's no evidence, you know, and you know, basically you're just capping. You know what I mean? But don't ever think that people aren't listening and watching. You know, and that just made his character look very bad. You know, cutting limbs off of animals and stuff. So the moral of today's story is think before you speak, and remember, doing a little bit of good in the community is not going to overlook the bad. I'm just saying. You know, they're going to be like, oh, he sold 100 pounds of cocaine, but he had a Boys and Girls Club. You're going to jail. Point blank, period. Anyway, this is your boy Rojo. This is the Rojo Room, and I'm gone.